Number 10. Snake attacks. When one snake can scare you shirtless and two may freeze you where you stand, what would you say to a dozen thrown at your feet? Well, unscrupulous and corrupt tax collectors in India learned the hard way to never harass and mess around with farmers who took revenge in the weirdest, most terrifying, and I'm sorry to say, hilarious way possible. Farmers Hukal Khan and his friend Ramkul Khan of Naharpur village in Uttar Pradesh had been visiting the local land and tax office, asking officials for records concerning their land in the village so that they could sell it. The officials, led by state official Ramsukha Sharma, would not oblige till the farmers bribed him. Little did he realize that Hukal and Ramkal also doubled as snake charmers. The next day, the fed-up farmers came to the tax office with a huge sack over their shoulders. He emptied the sack on the floor of the tax office, and the officials were horrified to see 40 snakes slithering around. Hukal had dumped a horde of venomous snakes of different varieties, including the deadly Cobra. It sent the officials scurrying on top of the tables for safety, and images of the officials sitting on the table with snakes lurking around below made headlines across India. Of course, the farmers fled, and I doubt the police located them. But how did this guy get all those snakes? And who does that? Number 9. Headless snakebite. Seeing a scary snake is one thing. Getting bit by a zombie snake could give you nightmares for the rest of your life. Now, rattlesnakes are just as deadly as cobras, and imagine coming across one in your backyard. Would you freeze in fear, or would you take a swipe at it? Surprisingly, Milo Sutcliffe from Texas did just that and decapitated the snake. Thinking he had killed it, he went to pick up the head of the snake. But that turned out to be the worst mistake of his life. The rattlesnake's head still had signs of life, and I'm sure in revenge, it bit Sutcliffe with everything it had. Now, there is a difference between getting bit by a live snake and a soon-to-be dead one. A live snake can regulate its venom delivery and will keep some back, but a headless one? Obviously, it's going to give you whatever it has because it won't be needing it anyway. Sutcliffe was poisoned so badly, he needed 26 doses of antivenom and even spent 5 days in a medically induced coma. Now, that's a lesson for everyone. Mess with the head of the rattlesnake, still get the rattle. Wait, does that make sense? Number 8. Black Mamba Ankle Feast. Mess with cobras, rattlesnakes, or even pythons, and you might just get away with it. But never mess with a black mamba. They are the deadliest snake in the world. Black mambas can grow up to 14 feet in length, and they can slither at a high speed of 12.5 miles per hour. Their venom will kill you in 10 minutes flat. If you live in black mamba territory, make sure your home is an anti-snake fortress, because it's better to be safe than sorry. Shepose Adoma from Kenya learned about black mambas the hard way. She was walking home from a party in her hilly village of Sheragan in Kenya's West Pokot County, close to the Ugandan border. It was dark, and suddenly, a 6.5-foot black mamba coiled around her foot and bit her 3 times. What terrified her more was the presence of 2 more black mambas who thought of approaching her as if barging into an uninvited dinner. Luckily, help appeared out of nowhere in the crazy form of a man with a machete taking out the duo before they could join in on the fun. The 3rd black mamba had already fled away. Adoma began losing her vision and soon started fainting. The man managed to get her to the hospital in the nick of time, where she was given antivenom. Thankfully, she survived, but I can't say the same for almost 30,000 people in Kenya who die from snake bites every year. Holy crap, that's a lot of people dying from snake bites. Have you ever got bit by a snake? What did you do? Let me know in the comments below, and if you're cool, hit that subscribe button while you're at it. Number 7. Python bites man on his blank. What could be scarier, a python biting you on the hand, the leg, or just imagine the thing you use to make babies with? Well, trust me, you might have a big laugh, but you don't want to experience what one Thai man went through in May 2016. The man, Anaconda Bunmakchue, now that's a long name, went about the call of nature and used his squat toilet to do so when he experienced the most horrible of pains, and that too on the part you might not even want to know about. It was a python that had slithered through his plumbing, and then thought that there was another little snake on its territory and latched its powerful jaws onto Anaconda's reproductive organ. You can well imagine how Ada screamed, and whether it was the horror of the pain or the fact that he might lose his pleasure point and not be able to make babies, we will never know, but that was a very awkward and painful situation. Ultimately, he was able to free himself with the help of his wife and his neighbor. I am just picturing the infinite torture of his wife trying to pull the snake off of him, and it makes me feel nothing but sympathy for the poor guy. I'm sure he will never be the same again. As for the python, who knows if the creature might have been traumatized too after realizing its mistake, but it was allowed to slither away. Number 6. Helicopter pilot attacked by a snake. Belgian fighter pilot Remy van Leerd was an ace fighter pilot for the Belgian Air Force and the RAF who had shot down 6 planes and 44 V-1 flying bombs in World War II. But shooting down planes and bombs is one thing, but what happens when you encounter a ferocious flying snake? In 1959, when Remy was serving in Congo as a helicopter pilot, he was returning back from a mission when he claimed he encountered a monster snake in the Canton region of Belgian Congo. He also says he flew several times around the snake for the people on board to take pictures. Remy's experience was even documented in an episode of Arthur C. Clarke's mysterious world entitled Dragons, Dinosaurs, and Giant Snakes. Remy described the snake as being almost 50 feet long and was a very dark shade of brown and green with a white belly. He also said the snake had a large head that looked to be around 3 feet long and 2 feet wide with triangular-shaped jaws. When he flew closer for a better look, Remy said he was horrified at how the snake got so crazy and rose almost 10 feet in the air towards the direction of his chopper. Had the chopper been any lower, the snake would have struck it. Remy passed on the pictures to the CIA, where they were analyzed, and they came to the conclusion that the snake was easily 200 feet long. Had Remy seen a rare sight of the infamous and very deadly Titanoboa? It could be possible. Number 5. Cobra bike chase. Cobras are deadly. There are no two ways about it. Face off with a cobra and it will stand its ground, ready to strike. A man named Guru Pachori from the North Indian state of Uttar Pradesh learned about the determination of cobras the hardest and scariest way possible when he accidentally ran one over with his motorbike. The incident occurred in the Jalan district of the state, where the snake did not take kindly to being run over and began chasing Guru. Guru sped away thinking he would be safe, but he was so wrong. He looked back only to see the cobra right behind him with determination in its beady little eyes. It almost caught up to Guru, who I'm sure was probably freaking out and saw his life flashing before his eyes. He was so frightened that he stopped, left his bike, and ran, hoping it was the bike the cobra was after. He might have guessed right because the cobra then climbed on the bike's seat and sat on it for quite some time. It was not even afraid of the crowd that gathered around. It lashed out each time someone tried to get close. Ultimately, the reptile might have been tired of showing everyone who's boss and quietly slithered off the bike and moved away. As for Guru, I'm told he still believes the cobra will try to take its revenge. Number 4. Python versus student. If you're working in a zoo and notice a python sizing you up, watching you with its wily eyes, I'd suggest you hand in your resignation. Unfortunately, that's not what biology student Eric Arita did when researching at the Venezuela Zoo. What possessed him to open the cage that housed a Burmese python beats me, but that's exactly what he did. The next morning, zoo workers arrived only to find the python coiled around the body of Arita in a scene straight out of some snake horror movie. The giant reptile was trying to swallow Arita's head. Workers started beating the snake to make it let go, but it was too late because he had already been crushed to death. There were even bite marks on his wrist that suggested the snake had struck him there first. One could hardly blame the snake for acting like one, and investigators felt that Arita should not have opened the cage, as he was the only employee at the time on the premises. If you ask me, I'd say that the Jungle Book was not wrong in suggesting how pythons have mental powers, and could this 10-footer have played Dr. Xavier on the student and made him open the cage? We will never know. Number 3, python in the toilet. Imagine going to your toilet and a snake jumps up and bites you on your backside. How terrifying is that? Heather Zeleny from Australia was visiting a relative in Brisbane and needed to use the toilet. As soon as she had taken off her undergarments and sat down in the seat, she felt a stinging pain on her backside. She jumped up, of course, and when she looked into the toilet bowl, she was horrified to see a creature staring up at her. Thankfully, it was a carpet python, and even if that bites you, you still need to be thankful because they are non-venomous. Probably didn't appreciate getting peed on though. Australia is full of carpet pythons, and the one that bit Heather was 5 feet long. She received minor puncture wounds that were treated with usual medication and first aid. As for the python, it was retrieved and of course let go, as you can't blame the snake for thinking that a UFO might have been coming down to attack it. It had only lashed out in fear, but Heather was cool and took it like a champ. Number 2, Copperhead gets cozy. If you are one to have nightmares about snakes, you better not watch this one. But in case you do, then you were warned. Snakes don't just like to crawl into corners of your garden, find their way into your toilet bowls. They might just like curling up in your bed too. That's exactly what happened to Christy Kelly, a 24-year-old from Silver Springs in Maryland. One day in 2017, Kelly was sleeping quite peacefully. But then she was rudely woken up with a knife-piercing pain in her hand. When she removed the covers, what she saw horrified her, and she immediately jumped out of bed. It was a copperhead rattlesnake who thought of taking a snooze along with Kelly, but might have been disturbed by her or just couldn't help biting into that soft, juicy hand. Kelly's house had undergone construction work, which may have dislodged the snake from its nest. And knowing how snakes are so cold-blooded, it couldn't help but crawl up next to a warm-blooded human. As for Kelly, she received 4 vials of antivenom and 3 surgeries to save her hand. It is doubtful whether Kelly slept in the same bed again or could even sleep at all after that. Number 1, Brazilian fisherman versus anaconda. Among all snake encounters, none can quite beat the time when 3 Brazilian fishermen tried pulling a huge yellow anaconda out of a river. What's scary about the incident is the stupidity of the trio who were unaware that the animal could have got stressed to the point of turning around and swallowing them all. The trio, Sirley Oliveira, husband Bettino Borges, and friend Rodrigo Santos, were boating down the Santa Maria River in the southwestern state of Mato Grosso do Sul when they came across the giant 17-foot-long yellow anaconda. Borges started to prod the snake with his oar, and the snake tried to swim away. The trio was lucky because, from the look of the snake, its belly seemed to be quite full, which means it had just had a meal. Had it not, the trio would have been snake chow. Rather than leave the snake alone, they began to pursue it, and Borges even caught its tail, which is the most ignorant thing to do. For the trio, it may have been a narrow escape without them knowing it. But what they could not escape from was the hefty $600 fine that the environmental police placed on each of them. This is one time that I support the snake. Thanks for watching. Which of these snake encounters do you think was the scariest? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you next time. Bye!